Hey, it's Sol, and today we're finally going to get around to doing Withered Training over in Suramar. It's a world quest that spawns every 3 days over in your main area in Suramar, and if you haven't done it already, basically the objective is to make a little army and do a kind of dungeon crawl through an area of Suramar. The rewards are pretty spiffy. You get rep, you get artifact power, you get some champion equipment, so it's definitely worth doing, and this walkthrough is going to kind of take you through and, well, hopefully try to help you guys improve your chances of getting good stuff. I'll just throw up a couple of reminders. First off, you definitely want to have as much mana as you can. The more you have, the more you can start with. So ideally start with 2,000. Now, in order to get the 2,000 mana cap, you need to have progressed through Suramar to a certain extent. You must have gone through and explored enough to acquire all the items that raise your mana limit. And once you do, you need the 2,000 on hand to get started. Your best bet is going to be going to the winery over in eastern Suramar city. And by the time you have 2,000 mana, you more than likely know where this place is. There are also the buffs that you get from the NPCs over in Shalaran, with the most useful one being the lane line mastery one that lays down that field. That's going to be pretty useful for cutting mobs onto that thing to kill them a little bit faster. So before you start the scenario, regardless of the class that you have, you want to make sure that you're spec to have as much CC as possible. So anything that can stun, knockback, or silence, all that stuff is going to be useful. And if you are a tank, all the better, because you can taunt and hold on to stuff and otherwise not die. You can just kind of concentrate on keeping your withered alive. But regardless, any class, as long as they have the proper toolkit and talent set up, you should be fine. The vast majority of your damage is going to come from your withered anyway. Alright, so let's go right in. I'm just kind of looking at my screen here, and we'll just go room by room. The first room, you just want to kind of clear the side before you engage that dude in the middle. And it's important that when you're attacking, that you try to tap every mob that you're trying to kill. Otherwise, your withered are going to ignore it. It's pretty easy to ignore, say, like a spider or something, and one of those little spiders. Then they might start clipping away at your withered, and you won't even really know it unless you have your sound turned up. So this guy in the middle is one of the elemental things that you need to at least pay a little bit of attention to. They have a spell that can be silenced, and they also have a big AoE stun. Both of these things you want to avoid getting hit by, so the cast time you can silence, but the big explosion thing you need to use either a knockback or a stun. And you're going to see these guys throughout the scenario. Especially early on, it'd be a good idea to pop your extra action button so you can have your wither do that crazy amount of damage that they can do. Think of it like super bloodlust. You just want to be really careful because your wither will aggro pretty much everything around them too. The second room here isn't a big deal either. Just take out these withered and take out the other volatile wrath over here. On the right, you see a door that requires 2 berserkers to open. Now, this is where a kind of a boss encounter takes place, and it's important that you be very careful which doors you decide to open. As you're progressing through this place, you're going to find that your withered will die. There's no way to heal them up or anything like that. As you start getting rewards and you repeat the instance multiple times, you're going to have like these special withered that do like magic damage or range damage, or these berserkers that do some pretty heavy melee and knockback, and they're really cool. But by the time you get to the very end, there's a good chance that your berserkers will die. So at this first room, if you are interested in going into this room, go ahead and open it up now, because you probably won't be able to backtrack at the very end and come back. Your berserkers are probably going to die. Another thing you can do is open the door, but don't go down it until you have a pretty healthy army on your hands, because down here is pretty damn rough if you don't have a whole lot of withered with you. Once you go down these stairs, you encounter multiple volatile rats, and like I said, if you don't have a whole lot of withered with you, they might outright kill you, but they're going to get really close to it. You especially want to be really careful because there's a second pack of these 3 volatile wraiths just hanging out shortly inside. So if you're chasing your guys around just like I am, well, you might run into some problems. So as you clear rooms, you're going to find these chests. You're going to find small ones, you're going to find medium-sized and big-sized ones. The small ones, go ahead and open them as you see them. The medium and big-sized chests, they use up your withered in order to get them opened up. Either 5 or 10, depending on which one you're going for. At least from my experience, and I guess it comes from being a tank, it might be a better idea to go for getting all the small chests before going for the big ones. The small chests give upgrades for your entire army. They do more damage, they have more health, they're less likely to run, and so on and so forth. And speaking of running, every now and then as your withered are taking damage, some of them are going to start running away. You want to chase them, click on them, and you can get them back, otherwise you lose them forever. And it sucks, it's kind of a pain, especially when you're in the thick of it and you're just trying to you're trying to survive or fight a boss, and 2 or 3 of your withered are running around. It may be a good idea if you have a speed boost available to try to catch them. That might help you a little bit too, but ideally you just want to avoid situations where you have to chase your withered into a group of mobs. It might be necessary to just sacrifice them, let them die for the sake of the rest of your team. So when you go down the opposite door, down this path, you'll see a door that requires 10 withered to open up. Go ahead and open that up, and inside you're going to find your first actual boss, this Lapilia Dryad person. So clear the mobs to the left and to the right, and just try to be careful about accidentally aggroing her. And once you do, just engage. There are a couple of things to look out for. One is an AoE that you spawn. So whenever you see big swirly things around you, just get away from your withered. You should be okay. If you're melee or you're a tank, it might be a good idea to just kind of stay far away, so that way your melee based withered aren't taking any extra damage. And again, your withered are going to be doing most of the damage anyway. And if she casts Shard Bolt, just interrupt that and you guys should be fine. So with that room cleared, go ahead and go down this path, this broken hallway path, pick up whatever wither that you have here, and clear this next room. You have these little shard maidens that aren't really a big deal at all. There are a couple of the elementals here that, again, you need to be careful about making sure that they don't get caught up in an explosion, and otherwise clear the room, get whatever treasures that you have here upstairs and downstairs. And don't do what I did and fall off the edge. That's gonna cause huge problems if you're not a tank. Like, as you can see, I'm having some struggles here, and this happened to be the same run that I went into the room with all the giant exploding wraiths. So this particular run really set me back. So once you're done, clear your way down, go down this path right here. It's pretty straightforward. There are a couple of other withered to pick up, a bunch of mobs, not a big deal. And eventually you're going to start running into these Faldori spider things. Now I can't say with absolute certainty, but I'm pretty sure that it's after this point that you might find, I think his name's Laystalker Dro. I'll just call him Dro. Dro could appear pretty much at any time while progressing through the rest of the scenario. But at least from the runs that I've done, one of the more likely scenarios is like around this area. So going forward, until the point you encounter Dro, you just want to be really careful about everything that you pull. You're going to hear Thalrissel say something like, "Look out," and that's when he'll typically appear. I've had one instance where I heard her say it and I didn't see him anywhere. I was kind of tripping out. But if she does say it, that's a definite sign that you should, be on the lookout, because he might pop up right on top of you. And, in fact, he will pop up right on top of you, as you can see here. Hopefully, when you do encounter him, there aren't a whole lot of mobs around you. And once this fight starts, you want to stun him immediately and, make your wither go berserk. You want to burn this guy down as quickly as possible, because aside from stuns and knockbacks, he's just going to wail on your team. So by now, you probably noticed that you need to go through this scenario really slowly. You just want to be super careful about everything that you're pulling, like little spiders, little things like that. They're pretty easy to miss, and like I said earlier, they can really start whittling down on your team if you're not careful. So this entire donut kind of shaped path is an area that you'll want to pretty much clear entirely until you start going into the rooms on the side. There are quite a few withered here to pick up, so it's a good idea to kind of take your time and gather everything that you can until you start going into the other rooms, especially if you haven't encountered Dro yet. If you haven't encountered him yet, you're more than likely to encounter him somewhere here, and this is where you're going to find kind of the least density of mobs. You definitely don't want to encounter Dro while you're fighting one of these bigger mobs in some of these tight rooms. One room that you do want to unlock before anything else is going to be this one right here. There is a chest in here that you can pick up if you have the withered for it, or if you're done and you're ready to wrap things up. But of course, there's the 3 withered here that'll help bolster your army. So from here you have options. You can go to certain rooms where you're going to find a couple of kind of tougher encounters but no bosses, or you can go deeper into the tunnels and start fighting bosses and getting loot and while losing withered. So here, if you're not super progressed with your withered army quite yet, it might be a good idea to go through these individual rooms first, because if you want to use that key that you got from Dro and go deeper into the dungeon, you are more than likely going to lose a good bit of withered. So at least in my opinion, you want to get every large and medium sized chest that you can before going down around before going through this door. So you will be doing this scenario multiple times in order to get all the rewards. But the cool thing is that if you do get a chest, or one of the larger or the medium-sized chests, you only have to get it once. So you'll definitely feel the progression as you start going a little bit deeper. And after 3, maybe 4 visits, you'll be able to clear this place, well, in no time. So let's talk about these rooms. The first room has a giant elemental thing inside, and it's flanked by a bunch of spiders. It's the first door on your left that you encounter as soon as you enter this donut-like area. So go ahead and clear everything on the sides without aggroing the big guy in the middle. So once you do encounter him, or well, when you accidentally encounter him, pull him a little bit towards the entrance. He's pretty much like any of the other elementals that you encountered, but he's just a lot bigger. And because he's bigger, he's going to have more opportunities to use his cast as well as his explosion, which is going to really jack you guys up. So ideally with this, or heck with any of these little bosses, you want to encounter him with as many withered as possible. Pop your berserker bloodlust thing and try to burn him down as quickly as possible. And again, just try to not aggro anything else in the room, which is pretty hard when you berserk your team, but just try to keep an eye out. This other room with the spider-like thing is probably not as bad, but it can be a big pain if you don't have a lot of AoE attacks. Spider has a big frontal cleave that you can interrupt, but he also does a thing where he summons a bunch of adds, and they'll usually spawn around your army. You can interrupt this with a knockback. I wasn't able to get a stun off, but even if he does summon a bunch of spiders, just try to AoE them down, or tag them so that your withered will start wailing on them. And of course in the meantime, just try to keep up with your guys, click on them if they start fearing, and unfortunately, well, I guess I didn't say this earlier in the video, but you can't heal your guys. You cannot heal them, which is a big pain in the butt, but well, it would make things a bit too trivial if you could. So with those 2 big guys cleared and the middle of the donuts taken care of, there isn't anything super special there. You can either clean the house and get away with whatever treasure you can, or use that key that you should have gotten from Drobe by now and go deeper into the tunnels. As you go deeper in here, you're going to find more and more of these little spiders, and they're going to continue to be a pain in the ass for you. Again, having your sound up to listen for spiders, or to listen for Thalrissa to be like, oh my god, stuff's hitting the fan, all that stuff's going to help. This room might be kind of a pain in the butt if you don't have pulsing AoE, which I think everyone does. So things like Consecrate, Blizzard, stuff like that, you can use those to clear out the eggs, so that it'll both kill the eggs and tag the mobs if there are any inside. Then your withered can start going to town. Of course, you could also break the eggs just by running over them, but it doesn't quite count as tagging the mobs. Your withered aren't going to engage them unless you actually hit them. So while this room is a dead end, it is a pretty easy room to clear, and there are a good number of withered that you can pick up out of here, and you're definitely going to need them. This next room here is probably the most painful one out of all of them, including the final boss. You have to take down that giant guy, there's some wandering adds, and there is a pretty much constant stream of spiders that are coming down. So you can do one or two things. One, you can skip this boss entirely and just go straight for the last one. But you gotta time it right and make sure that your withered are totally following you up these stairs. If not, there's a good chance that you'll encounter this boss and he'll start totally wailing on you. And you don't want to accidentally encounter 2 bosses at once. The other option is to fight him, so let's fight him. One of the things this guy does, he'll grab a withered and just kind of chuck him at your other guys. The other thing he's got is that he can stomp, and well, at least to my memory, I don't know if you can stun it, mess it, or otherwise interrupt this thing. But overall, from encountering this guy, you just gotta be prepared to lose a couple of withered. Most notably your berserker guys, because chances are by now they're probably pretty worn out. So regardless of whether you kill the Elfbreaker or not, there are these pain in the ass spiders that you gotta deal with pretty much the entire time you're trying to climb up this thing. And it's rough. Again, you want to try and tag all these things so that way your withered can start attacking them. Otherwise, you're really gonna start losing withered as soon as you get up here. And when you do get up here, I've had multiple bugs happen when fighting this boss. In one of my run-throughs, it went for these spell worms towards the back, and it stopped the spiders from spawning, which is pretty cool. The other bug sucks, where I ended up pulling the spider kind of down the stairs, and for whatever reason, my withered just wouldn't attack the spider. So this had me hella flipping out. I mean, I ended up losing a good chunk of withered. I pretty much ended up fighting the boss almost totally by myself, and I think I missed out on getting a chest or two because I lost some guys. At the end, end is simply the exit, as well as a medium-sized chest that you don't really need to get. So ultimately, this is a scenario where you choose your battles. You want to go for the things that you're going for and try to avoid, well, everything else. If there is one goal here, it's to get the score of 400 or so you can get the 425 rep that you need for the Nightfallen. Beyond that, there's some pets and toys and other fun stuff in the end, and this thing will get easier over time. So for the no-brainer summary, spec for CC, going with 2000 mana, beware of Dro, open every medium and large chest that you can before you go down the Dro door. Oh, and try not to explore too much. So that's my walkthrough, but don't be deceived. I used 3 trainings worth of footage in order to create this video, and as of this recording, I think I've done 4 or 5 total. So while I am done with it here, just don't stress about it, keep calm, follow this guide, take a look at other guides, check out our tips, and do your best. If you like this video, like and sub, and if you have any feedback, hey, let me know in a comment below. Sorry that this guide came kinda late, but hey, better late than never. Hope to see you guys next time for some more goodness, and otherwise, you have a good one. I'm Soul. Stay breezy, guys.